Hello and welcome to Eternal TV. I'm OneLife5. Today I'm going to talk about Eternal's economy, so let's jump right in. So what is going on, guys and girls? Today's video is all about Eternal's economy. This is a compact guide to what cards you can safely break down and ones you probably shouldn't. If you're watching this video and wondering what on earth Eternal is, I encourage you to check out my previous video. I'll provide a link in this video for that, where I answer that very question for you. Anyhow, let's get down to business, guys and girls. The economy system in Eternal is called Shift Stones. Now, Shift Stones can be earned when we break down cards of different rarities and we get a varying amount of Shift Stone in return. As you can see from the other view on screen right now, how each one breaks down. And it's very clear from this breakdown list that the most is earned from legendaries. So this guide will purely focus on legendaries and won't touch upon the rares because most people won't break down the rares. Now, for ease, I'm going to go through in faction order and I'll tell you how safely you can break down each card. A couple of disclaimers though before I do begin. Firstly, this guide is not a hard and fast rule. You don't have to stick to this guide at all. If you have legendaries you could break down to finish off that sweet deck you're working on, do so. Also, all 5 Scions, Khalib, Talia, Roland, Elan and Vara can all be broken down in excess of singletons, as you are unable to break down all copies of these cards. And finally, any card that is not mentioned in this guide, please assume that it is safe to just go ahead and break down. Also, please do remember when you're watching this video that this is a compact overview. We only concentrate on the cards that are worthy consideration according to the current metagame of Eternal. So let's kick things off with Fire. In Fire, there is only really Soulfire Drake, and Soulfire Drake is played in Rakano and Stonescar aggro decks. Now it's usually featured as a 2-off, so any excess in 2 you can go ahead and break down here. Moving on to Time. There's 2 cards that really stand out in Time for me. We have Mystic Ascendant and Sandstorm Titan. Mystic Ascendant is played in Combrei mid-range decks and usually as a 2-off, and Sandstorm Titan, which is usually a playset in all the decks that is currently played in. So retrospectively, we should break down any in excess of 2 of Mystic Ascendant and 4 of Sandstorm Titan. Next up is Shadow. The only card that I feel that is worthy keeping in Shadow is going to be the Last Word. I would keep it as a singleton myself, as it has been in and out of favour of Found Control and Found Scar control decks, so we should break down in excess of the singleton. Moving on to Justice. 3 cards are actually in this faction that are played in the legendary slot. Currently we have Treasure Gate, which is a card that is featured in some armory builds as a 3-off. Martial Ironthorn, which is in Combrei mid-range builds as a 2-off, and Sword of the Sky King, which is a singleton in most armory decks. So retrospectively, we can go ahead and break down any in excess of 3 Treasure Gates and 2 Martial Ironthorns and any above a singleton of Sword of the Sky King. Now the final faction for you guys is Primal. Only 1 card really is worthy consideration here, and that is Scourge of the Frosthelm, and it's usually played as a singleton. It has been played in a few Found Control and Found Scar control decks, so any excess of the singleton should be broken down. So finally, we're going to move on to the multi-faction cards. We have a massive 12 cards to get through that require consideration, and they are as follows. Shimmer Pack, since it's rebalancing to 8 mana, it has gone from a 3-off to a 2-off in its own namesake deck, so we can break down any in excess of 2. Ikeria the Liberator is played in most armory decks as a 2-off, so any in excess of 2 we can get rid of. Starshield the Shio, again, is played in the same armory decks and is usually featured as a 2-off, so go ahead and break down any excess of 2. Black Sky Harbinger is played in Found and Found Scar control decks as a playset, and any excess in a playset should be broken down. Deep Forge play is a weird one, as some Rakano builds play it as a 3-off or 4-off, so this one is a personal preference on whether you prefer it as a 3-off or 4-off in your deck. Reality Warden has been spotted being played in some Combrei mid-range decks, and usually as a 2-off. The Vanney Warsinger used to be an all-star in Recano aggro, but since it's been regulated to the Recano budget build, so depending on where you are with your Recano build, you can break down all of the Vanney because he's not really as good as he looks on paper, or you can keep it as a 2 if you're playing sort of the budget version. Bandit Queen is up next and has been gaining popularity and is heavily played in Jitto, Burn and Stonescar aggro decks, and usually as a playset. Statuary Maiden is a beast and is usually played in Felnscar and Stonescar control decks, and is usually a 3 in both of these decks. The Great Parliament is up next, and it is a great card. It's in Combrei aggro and Combrei midrange, and usually it's played as a 2 Knight Chancellor Sareth is really one of the staples of building a good Combrei aggro or Combrei mid-range deck. You'll need a playset of this card to even be competitive with these sort of decks. So yeah, any excess of 4 we can break down. And finally, rounding off the 12 cards is Midnight Gale, which is a sim play in some of the Found Haunting Screen decks as a 3 So that wraps up the brief sort of overview of what cards we can break down and what cards we shouldn't. Remember, if you didn't see a card featured here, it is completely safe to break down. Just assume that it's completely safe. Anyhow guys, that is it for our brief comedy guide to Eternal today. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to smash that like real good, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.